Out into more of our managed stand. It's right there, and that's right on the Pacific Crest Trail. I did grow up in the woods. I grew up in Bernie, just on the other side of Lassen. Very similar community to Chester. Logging, sawmilling, tourist community. And I loved growing up, you know, hiking and fishing and hunting and camping. And went to school at Humboldt State. Graduated in '84 with a bachelor's degree in forest management, emphasis in production. And generally those folks go to work for private industry. In the early mid-'80s, we were kind of in a little downturn at the time, and no one was hiring. I actually spent 3 years working for the Forest Service on the Hat Creek Ranger District. Was a marking crew foreman, and thought, hey, maybe I can go to work for the Forest Service. But at that time, been in the forest manager position for the last 13 years. At Collins for 17. They give us the freedom and latitude as long as we do the right thing, and they're concerned about making sure that we do the right thing on the ground. It is a business. We have to make money at it, because that's part of that sustainability part that Jeff was talking about. Collins Company's been around since 1855. We've been here in the Elmonor Basin since 1941, harvesting timber. The mill was built in '43. So the first 2 years, actually all of our logs went to Westwood, to the Red River. This particular 40-acre piece that we're in right here is a little bit unique. Up until about 20 years ago, we didn't own any of the other ground directly adjacent to this 40 acres. It was Forest Service. We've since acquired it in a trade. But this 40-acre piece used to sit by itself, and highway ran through it. Truman Collins, his vision for this 40 acres is he wanted there to be like a rest area in here, or a little park in here. And so he said, you know what, we're going to manage the rest of our lands, but let's leave this kind of set aside. Let's be able to show people what an old growth forest really looks like. So he said, okay, I don't want you cutting any green trees here in the Park 40, but if a tree dies naturally, then let's log it, get it out of here and get to the mill and capture some of the value on that. But don't go in and try to put in a green harvest in here. So for years, that's all we did. We did a little bit of salvage logging in here. Every year, or every couple of years, there'd be a tree or two that would die. And they were pretty good sized trees, so it was worth coming in and getting them. Then I think it was in the 70s, early 70s sometime, AT&T built a transcontinental phone line, and it just happened to come right through here. In fact, this little road right here is where the phone line was. And then, of course, you know, about 100 years ago, we started fighting fire and trying to exclude fire from the forest, because, you know, we went from having these fires all the time to no fires. So it was, you know, fire was a bad thing. And so we started putting out every single fire that happened. So I tell people when we come to the Park 40 that this is a perfectly natural forest, except that we've got a state highway running through it, a transcontinental phone line, we've salvage logged, and we've excluded fire for 100 years. But other than that, it's perfectly natural. So, but some interesting things started happening in here, even since Truman's day. You know, we kind of had, as a company, we had this mandate that we would not do any management in here. So what happened was we started, much like the rest of our forest, we started getting all of these little fir trees growing up underneath the bigger pine trees. And you can look, just stand right here and look around here at the overstory trees, the biggest, tallest trees. You know, we've got a sugar pine, a ponderosa pine, incense cedar, sugar pine, sugar pine, sugar pine, sugar pine, white fir, ponderosa pine, sugar pine, ponderosa pine, white fir. some more white fir, sugar pine, cedar, but a pretty good mix, heavy to pine in here. Now if you walk back in this area and start looking at the understory trees, it's 99% white fir. And the reason for that is white fir is a shade tolerant tree. The pines are shade intolerant. They have to have sunlight in order to regenerate. And so over time, while we thought we were protecting the forest, what we were actually doing was converting it to something different than what historically it had been, and probably what nature had intended for it to be. So about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, we were, and the other thing is we were noticing that some of the larger trees that Truman really wanted to protect in here were becoming more and more stressed. And when you think about it, you have this very dense canopy in here. 90% of our precipitation comes in the form of snow. That snow was being intercepted by these crowns. Could not get down to the ground, or not very much of it. I mean, you know, and because of that, we were getting stress, drought stress, on some of the larger trees. So, and I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but I also think that, you know, because the smaller trees have shallower roots, and those roots are intercepting what little bit of water is going down. The water's not being able to penetrate way down. This area that you're looking at over here was, I mean, you couldn't tell the difference between this and this. It all was wall-to-wall trees. So of this 40 acres, we left this kind of northeast corner, it's about 10 acres, as kind of a control. We treated the other 30 acres, and some of it goes across the highway there, with the biomass harvesting. And then of that part that we treated, we reintroduced fire after the treatment over here. We left one little corner back over here that we just did the biomass harvesting on, but did not put fire on the ground. So we could kind of compare the different treatments and see. We'll walk over here so you guys can get a feel for it. This is the same here. I caught fire and stuff like this.
Having breakfast or kickback, but they weren't interested enough to come. Jay! Jay?
We came in with a mechanical harvester, a guy in a Timco, sitting in the seat, making decisions about which trees to cut, which trees to leave. Here's what, you know, it looked like after, well actually it didn't look like this. He cut all of these stems, we put them in bundles, ran them through the chipper, took the chips to the cogen plant, used those chips to burn to make our energy. The operator, Dean, was so tickled with himself because when he got done, you could not see a single stump out here. He had put that head right on the ground. He said, "This is great operation ground. It's flat, there's no rocks, and there was a duff layer that he could set that head right on and get right down and cut it at ground level." So the following year, we came in and decided, okay, now it's safe, we can reintroduce some fire. We were feeling pretty safe about doing some burning over the next 4 or 5 days. We came out one day, started the fires, and this cold front that was coming in had some winds associated with it. We ended up burning all 20 acres off in one night.
Oh, yikes.
It was a very exciting night for us.
Yeah.
I was thinking, now if the Park 40 burns up, wonder what my resume is updated as of right now. Because I knew what was going to happen. I mean, this is sacred ground to the Collins family.